Hello, everyone. You probably have heard all over the place, all over the news, that there is chaos in Haiti right now. And this video, I would like to bring light on a lot of things going on that I believe a lot of people who don't know about Haiti, who are asking relevant questions in terms of our humanity, our uh, um patriotism. They have legitimate questions. Why is this country? Uh, why all the time we have negative news about this country? Um, why don't we ever have some positive information about Haiti? It's either earthquakes and hurricanes and violence, riots and demonstrations and corruption in the government. Why is it all that? Why don't they have nice beaches just like the Dominican? You know, it's just one island. Why don't they have nice roads? Why don't they have a great education system? Why have they been independent since 1803? They haven't been slaves since 1793. Why is such a great country so poor? Why? 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 Well, let's get to the bottom of this. A wise man once said, "There are no perfect men, but only perfect intentions." There are no perfect men, only perfect intentions. So many men and women have given their lives in order to make this world a better place. None of them was perfect. One of my psychology attendings during residency told us one time that we are all average. When I heard that, I looked at him or her and I was like, that does not make any sense. You have powerful people stepping on the throat of the littlest of man. I've seen it. I've lived it. You have people actually believe that they're equals or they're inferior. I've seen it. I've mentioned it. I've seen countries getting involved within the intimacy, like the getting into other countries' business just because they are powerful. They're not average. They're powerful. And then he or she or he went on to say, "Look, I'm going to explain. I'm going to explain. If you had a conversation with the most instrumental, most devoted, most courageous heroes, like Martin Luther King Jr., like Abraham Lincoln, like Nelson Mandela, try to get close to their family members, their spouse, their very close friends, and their children. They will tell you at night they're just regular people. They just average people. The thing is, there are average people. They're not expected to be perfect. There's no perfect man, but they had perfect intentions. Perfect intentions, yes, they did, against injustice, against racism, against fascism, against war, against exploitation, against slavery. Well, talking about slavery, you know, I descend from a number of heroes who were slaves, the Haitians. And we had heroes who have sworn that every man shall live free or die with dignity. Haitians, back in the 17th century. We started working on it. They wanted to make us believe that we were inferior, that we could only be slaves. Man, those heroes, they fought, man. They were not always perfect. And today I'm going to talk to you about one of them, Toussaint Louverture. Toussaint Louverture, that guy was a genius. Oh man, I haven't read about anybody that even came close to Toussaint Louverture. I have read a lot. I have not read anybody that came close to this guy. Toussaint was a slave. No perfect man. Toussaint was raised in a plantation in Cap Haitian. He didn't know how to read. He was smart. A tiny little guy. They call him Fatra Baton, like lightweight stick. He was so tiny. Nobody was scared of Toussaint. But Toussaint knew that from the day he started to understand things that were going around him, seeing the mistreatment of the slaves, seeing how his brothers were being treated, that he had to do something. That's when he started to learn. It starts with education. Revolution starts with education. You will create chaos if you don't educate your people. You see it going on in Haiti right now. Toussaint went on and taught himself how to read. He had his godfather teaching him how to read too. But his godfather was Pierre Baptiste. He was a sophisticated Negro, as they called him. Toussaint was lucky enough to have this sophisticated Negro teaching him how to read and teaching him, how to talk to the masters in a philosophical way. You don't have to bow your head down. You could still keep your head up. So Toussaint was so smart. His masters promoted him to he was a healer, but they promoted him to coach, and he was a muleteer. A muleteer is a person who is taking care of the livestock in the plantation. He was not a field Negro. By 1776, Toussaint was free. He was a free man. So why would this free guy that doesn't get whipped, that doesn't get burned, that is at very, very low risk to have his hand cut, has his leg amputated, burned, placed in the hot chamber? He didn't have any of that apprehension. But Toussaint knew that one way he could be free is if everybody's free. So you understand? You could live in a mansion. You could live. You could be the. And that's what the colonists didn't understand. Those people are human beings. And whether you want it or not, one day they will revolt because you live large and they live small. At one point, they will realize that you ain't nothing. So they'll walk and claim what's theirs. And that's what Toussaint didn't want to happen. He wanted to talk to the colonists to tell them, well, let's get to work together, right? Let's free those people, and we'll create a colony where we can live together and work and be prosperous together. But that's not what they wanted. All they wanted, those farmers, planters, were to get rich and go live large in France, like their family living large, go to Venice, go to Venice and Nice, places like that. That's where the descendants mostly are. Toussaint was not heard. He was talking in deaf ears. Toussaint probably also read in the Bible that, every man was created in the image of God. Toussaint was a fervent Catholic. Like, he was always in church. At some point in Toussaint's life, they thought he thought he was a priest because he was preaching about forgiveness and all of these things in the Bible. But Toussaint has read in the Bible that, we all created in God's image, not just the white man. Every man was created in God's image. So he tried to talk to them. They would not reason. Because the only way for them to be rich is to get slaves, working in the fields for them, and treating them inhumanely. So back then, Toussaint was the guy that was chosen to lead the country to freedom. How did he do it? Well, he read all the newspapers from France. At the time that the French Revolution started, the Jacobins, the Jacobins were very famous in France, claiming freedom for everyone. So it didn't take more than 2 years for that to get into Saint-Domingue, and Toussaint enjoyed reading the newspapers from his masters. So he found out and he told the people what's going on in France. It's like, okay, if it's going on in France, let's just start it right here. So it started, and that's when we knew what community meant, working together, what it meant. So the slaves get together and start the revolution that lasted over a period of close to 13 years. So now, let's say we fast forward to 220 years later, Toussaint Louverture becomes Jovenel Moïse, the actual president of Haiti. Day and night. Toussaint was about, let's get everybody free, let's work, let's have people work so they could get profit, so the country could be prosperous. 220 years later, the things reversed. You have a slave president who's listening to the core group, the organization of the Organization of American States, and the United Nations, for the most part, that have no clue what's going on in Haiti. instead of listening to the people. Toussaint listened to the people, and he knew the people need freedom. The current guys don't listen to the people because they don't have the same objectives as Toussaint. While we Haitians do not expect them to be perfect, but we expect them to have perfect intentions. The people first, not a handful of rich folks, not just the politicians, but little kids that come from nowhere, like me. Give them a reason to hope, a reason to dream of being useful to their country, not participating in the mass, not provoking the mass exodus that's going on, where young people in their 20s, after their high school, live for Chile, lives for the United States, live for Brazil, while we don't have any type of structure to keep them in the country and to be productive. We can't form a society without minds, without science, without medicine, without engineering, without innovation, technology. We can have a society like that. But the current system, the current government, that's not their priority. They're not listening to the people. They're listening to the core group. So what does core group know about the people of Kikwa? What do they know about the people of Place Catabua? What do they know about the people of Atrel? What do they know about the people of Lembe? What do they know about those people with so much pride? They don't know anything. The Americans tried in 1915 through 1934. They failed miserably. I don't know what their intentions were back then. They were obviously not perfect, but were they really trying to help? I have no clue. They said they were supposed to fix a dysfunctional government. Well, they left, and it was even more dysfunctional. So they didn't fix anything. So don't tell me that we are waiting for the United States, the core group, the OAS, the UN to come and fix things. Because guess what? They have their own issues they can fix. They can't fix. The United States can't fix racism. They can't fix hate. They can't fix race. They can't fix all those hate crimes. No. So how do you think they've tried to help us, so to say? It didn't work. Now they're trying to fix their own country, their own issues with hate, with slavery. Why do you think that back in 1798, between 1798 and 1801, 3 years, were the only times that the U.S. knew that Haitians were free, because they dealt with them. They traded with us. They traded with Toussaint because he was the man. He was a man under President John Adams. 3 years later, when John Adams got defeated by Thomas Jefferson, who didn't really like us, that was done. That was when, 1801, that's when Napoleon Bonaparte sent 43,000 guys, a military crew with all kind of weapons to invade Haiti and reinstate slavery. The United States didn't recognize Haiti free until 1862, in the middle of the Civil War. So it's a questionable friendship. So even when the United States or the friends of Haiti, you still have the right, if you are a real leader, to question their honesty. So going back to the UN, back in 2011, after the cholera outbreak started in Haiti, I lost my uncle to cholera. Telisma Wozilus, my mom's brother, the nicest guy in the world. Never, I grew up until 12 years old before I moved out of the village. I've never heard him curse once. I've never heard him disrespect his wife. I've never heard him cheating on his wife, not once. Motor guy. He died with cholera. So, you know how cholera got to Haiti, right? The UN brought it. One of our presidents thought it was great to call the UN to help us with our problems that he created. We were not at war, but he wanted to stay in power. So the UN came, and I lost my uncle because they brought cholera with them, and those people are still not compensated. I'm pretty much responsible for taking care of his family now. So that's what gives me the right to talk about it. hmm A month ago, about 3 to 4 weeks ago, a guy that I know had a weak heart. He had congestive heart failure because he had a leaky valve in his heart. He went to the U.S. consulate for a visa. Some really good intended U.S. people were trying to help him get that surgery that would save his life. He would have saved his life. He had 2 kids and a wife. He was young. I knew him. He went to the same high school I went to. They told him he didn't need a visa. They wouldn't give him a visa. So I read an email where the doctor said, if you don't give him a visa, he's going to die. And they don't give a shit. That's another Negro that dies. Who cares? So you tell me those people there, driving nice cars, living in nice houses, when things go bad, it's never for them because they have all the information, and the Haitian government protects them. They have a Haitian police or their own force, like their own security. So why in the world do they want anything to change? It's up to us to make changes, to make it happen. So I'm thinking, the Haitian president, what kind of, if they elect you, you elected to make change happen, right? So you've heard over the last couple of weeks that the exodus out of the slums, out of those overpopulated areas like Martissant, Soleil not quite involved at this point, but Grand Ravine, like all of these slum areas where the gangs that the government is empowering, they took over and they kick. I've seen pictures of kids crying. One little girl got lost because they were trying to escape because of all the gunshots and weapons and killings. I saw this older gentleman dying in the corner, elder person. They shot and he had like flies all over him. I have seen pictures that make me nauseous. They make me nauseous because the gangs are protected by the government. People who are against the government have their own gangs, and the rich people have their own gangs. So the people really, they have no hope. They have no hope. So please don't tell me that Well, the prime minister came and said everything is fine. He said they are doing a great job. I think I've heard him say that. So it's lame when we know what Toussaint did to get the country here. We're independent. We're an independent country since 1803, and until now, we can't really elect. We can't choose the person that we want to govern us. But we need to wait for the UN, the USA, the OAS to tell us what we need. No, we know what we need. We need accountability. We need uh, we need honesty. We need a justice system. The Haitian people made it clear. If they will listen to the Haitian people rather than those folks that have no clue what's going on in Haiti, they would have known that the people in Haiti that I talked to, what they need a change, a radical change in the justice system. It doesn't work. It's corrupt. If justice is not guaranteed for everyone in the country, that country is not going anywhere. The strong will always overpower the weak. They want education. I would like every child in Haiti to go to school and get at least a high school education. Higher education depends on your aptitude, but everybody. I'm tired of having to write everybody's, like, most people's address and number or name on the plane when I'm traveling to Haiti. It is 2021. People need to know how to read and write. Those are basics, right? Those are basic rights. So the people has talked. They're tired of talking. They said they need hospitals. 2018, I went to General Hospital. I could have easily puked. I could have thrown up because it's so nasty. You can't take care of people in this environment. It smells bad. Hospital is not supposed to look like this. So the people knows. They said, we want roads. We want decent roads. They don't have to be fancy. We want transportation. They're tired of having to get their kids get in the back of the big truck to go to school. They want jobs, 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 jobs. That's what they want. They don't want to leave the country. It's not that great. The grass at the neighbors seems to be green, but it's not green for everyone. It's green for me. I have an education. I read and I educate myself. We need to give this chance to all the children of Haiti. And that's what Toussaint wanted. Let's stop the corruption. This student, this university student, Gregory Saint-Hilaire, was killed by the government's police. They call it Police Nationale, but it's the government police now. They kill innocent people. And the gangsters, the kidnappers, they are on TV, they're in the news, they talk all the time, nobody can arrest them. But this kid was in his school holding a banner saying we need books, not guns. Guess what? He got shot in the back by a cop, by a police officer that was directly affiliated to the guard of the president, the guardship of the president. Case closed. No justice. Med Dorval, legislator, like a lawyer, a justice that was beat down, assassinated at his gate, less than a mile. I don't know what distance exactly, but it was very close to the president's house. He talked the night before. He talked against the president's will to change the constitution to fit his own interest of corruption and in greed. We do not expect them to be perfect. There's no perfect man. Those guys, instead of perfect intentions, they are evil. And when you don't have a heart, you can be compared to animals. Some people say the current government, like the whole bunch of animals. No. A dog never bites its owner unless it has really, unless it caught rage. Those guys are not animals. I think those guys are dead animals. Now it's up to the youth of Haiti to stand on their feet and say, hey, it's about damn time. Let's follow the steps, the footsteps of Toussaint Louverture, Dessalines, Capois-Lamont. We either die or make this piece, this part of the island, livable for every single Haitian. For every single Haitian. I love you.